Is it possible to make real money as a creative? What's the honest truth in Zambia?
Can we have like a definition of what real money? So I always like to look at life as value. What value are you adding and what value are you expecting? Yes, we made you a nice logo, but did your business improve? Did we get sales? And I think I've seen this problem a lot, even like with social media managers. Like, oh, we posted 10 posts, we put the captions. What does that translate to? I think we need to get to a point where we start looking at things in terms of, did we get results? What needs to be improved? Is the client happy? And things like that. The creator economy is creating jobs that didn't exist before. Just unfortunate that some people are still unaware of them. Funny story, there are actually influencers right now making more than doctors. Not even like a joke.
Yeah.
But then it's not guaranteed for everyone. That's the only distinction. A doctor, when you do your studies, you focus, you will graduate and become a doctor. But as an influencer, like what's the route? How do you guarantee that it does lead to something? So I think that's the only difference. Parents, they would want to put their children in situations that are kind of guaranteed.
What are you currently observing in the creative space in Zambia?
Fear. There's a lot of fear in the creative space because of AI. A lot of people don't know if the career they have, they'll still have it in 5 years. They don't know if they should pivot, do something else or stay. Like currently, that's the most obvious thing that I'm seeing.
What's one brand do you think is currently misunderstood?
I would say a brand that's currently misunderstood is Zesco. Yeah.
I don't need an explanation to that.
Well,
Okay, this time I'll break the rules. Quick one, before we go any further, please remember to like and to subscribe and to share. And I promise to bring you the best and most valuable content. Hey man, how are you?
yeah, I'm okay.
You good?
Good to finally be in the lights.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, no, I've been waiting for this conversation. You know, I was saving you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You know what they say, save the best for the last.
For the last.
Of course, not the last, but
Yeah.
after this many episodes.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
so-
it's an honor. It's an honor. I've been watching the episodes. Very good stuff you're doing.
The first time I came across your work, I think that was back in 2023. I followed you first. Then I'd been seeing your work and everything you had been posting. And yeah, I was really inspired.
You know, most people confuse because the way I categorize my work, what goes on social is never like my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So most people actually think I'm a producer or like, but most people don't know I'm a graphic designer actually.
Yeah, I think I never knew about that. I think until we connected on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's when I saw that you're also a designer. I was just like, what? Yeah, because Instagram is like completely different from what is there. So you're also like a multimedia designer. You have so many interests, right?
Yeah, a lot. So initially, why I got into design, I was trying to get into photography, but then I couldn't get a camera on time because I had to save money. So I started like playing around with Photoshop. That's how like design came in. Then before all this, I used to shoot like family movies where the camera back home when I was a kid. So I used to shoot like documentaries and stuff like that. So multifaceted in like the kind of interests I've been having over the years. Yeah.
Now, speaking of being a kid and a child, how was it like growing up? What were you interested in?
Growing up, so the family I come from, they're engineers, miners. So I was more of like the artist in an engineering environment, so to speak. So I always had to like struggle, like, do I go the artistic route or the engineering route? So even like in grade 8, we had options. So I was like, should I go with TD or arts?
Yeah.
So the influence won. So I did TD, technical drawing, woodwork. Then grade 10, I went into, what do you call that class? Anyway, so the artistic side of me usually like suffered in terms of the educational route that I took because of the influences I had. But artistically, I've always had that expressed outside of like school. So we used to do, I was a rapper from like grade 8, not grade 8, grade 5, but we did like our official song in like grade 8. And then it's always been like a balance. So even when going to school, I initially wanted to do medicine, and then one of my aunts was like, "You're interested in computers and stuff. You're good at." So I was like the tech guy. So if there's like a neighbor that wants to have their TV set up, I used to do the AV cable stuff and setting up decoders. That was like always like stuff I could just naturally do. So I've always been like a tech guy, artistic in an engineering setup, but then music and art. I used to draw as well. That's how like I expressed myself. So the artistic side was more therapeutic or a hobby thing, and then the technical stuff was more like probably what I'll end up doing as a career. Yeah.
So that was all because of influences around you, right? Because of the people that you saw. And so you're being pushed in one direction, but from inside you knew that
an artist.
An artist.
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
Yeah. I think I relate to that story because when I was also growing up, I like to draw a lot, like cartoons and whatnot on the artistic side. But everyone around me was just saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to be a doctor, most especially a doctor or an economist." The artistic side is not talked about a lot, or subjects in the creative field they're rare to find. So I would always also go for the other subjects. I remember even throwing my drawings at one point because I needed to focus on school because everybody you need to focus. So I stopped even drawing when I went to grade 10.
That's a shame though. It's true that the arts, I think maybe we also need to do like a better job because kids, I only knew about graphic design through Mapalo actually.
Really?
So I used to visit us at Unza. Then I was like, "So what are you doing?" He's like, "No, I'm working for this company. Check out this Pepsi ad I'm doing." I was like, "So there's actual jobs where you can do this." So I didn't even know until like uni.
The environment is really important. I think that's why they say that you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So you're Abel Black. The only time I knew your surname is when I was doing research.
Don't mention it.
Why not?
Nah, no, they shouldn't know. So first of all, it's a complicated story. I am Abel, the last name. So it's actually should the government. Okay, so when I was born, it's ABLE, but I didn't like it. So when I got my NRC, I rewrote it to ABEL. So it's actually pronounced Ebo, but when I go to like government places or technical places where the name has to be spelled right, when I say Ebo, they write the other one. So I say Abel, so that they spell it correctly, but it's actually pronounced Ebo.
Ebo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the story there.
Then the Black, where did it come from?
The Black is from, so growing up, it's like a dual thing. So growing up, I was in a society that didn't fully embrace dark-skinned people. So if you had a dark complexion, it was almost like you were lesser or lower than someone who's lighter. It was almost frowned upon to a point where like you're not clean enough. So I remember there are certain comments they used to give us like, "You should bath." You're not bathing, that's why you look at your brother, look at your child. So so it was that kind of setup where your skin complexion meant how valuable people will look at you, so to speak. So being black was something I always was ashamed of. So I used to wear like black clothing to make me look lighter, because if you wear white and you're dark, it emphasizes the dark. So the black comes from flipping that. So I eventually got to a point where I embraced who I was, and it became a symbol of pride, being black. So the Abel Black is from that background where I am emphasizing that I'm proud to be black because of knowing how in the past that negatively affects people because of the inferiority attached to either the complexion or just black people in general. Then the other black is from black sheep. So growing up, I was always like the guy that went against the grain. I've always tried to not follow trends, or like there were points in my life where just because everyone is going left, I'll just go right. Not that I wanted to go right, but like I'm not going to be going where everyone else is going. There has to be that person that's doing things differently. So I've always been that kind of black sheep in my family, in the stuff I do. And in most spaces, I think where I am, I'm not the usual, like the standard way stuff is done. So that's the other black. So black sheep and proud to be black.
Skin. I like that. I think also like, because I'm also like, is it like that's why black people, right? Like black people, but you're just darker than most people. That was the situation. Was it that they're white people?
No, it's, there are different skin tones. So there are those black people. Okay, so in my family, technically speaking, some of us are light, like the almost colored light, and then there's like the non-colored light. Yeah, so we are not, they're usually very distinct differences. Yeah, like you either be the one that's black or the one that's more like a colored light.
Yeah. I think that's true. I also received that a lot. I think when I was younger as well, like, because I'm also like dark, like my skin is very dark. Or at least darker than most people. But I also used to receive that a lot from people. And also those types of jokes as well. So that's why I laughed a lot. It's just like, I can relate.
It's a common thing.
Yeah, it's a common thing. Wow. People just feel like, dark. Yeah. But now after you grow up, you learn to embrace that. Yeah, I'm proud to be dark. Like, I even make jokes about myself because I'm secure that I'm dark than most people. Yeah, that's why I laughed a lot.
It's important to actually accept yourself.
Yeah, because you can't change that,
Yeah.
Like, you don't even
some people try.
Yeah, some people try, but
which is a shame.
Yeah, which is a shame. So of course you went through school. So now I believe there was time to go to uni. How was that conversation like? What you're going to study, yeah.
So I've always been technical, like techie and the tech space, technology. So I initially wanted to do computer science until I read the book called Gifted Hands by Ben Carson. So the doctor thing, it became an option.
Yeah.
And then when I was doing, there was a club called Jets Club. Yeah, so I was very good at biology because of whatever. And then I was the highest in chemistry and biology. So they were like, since you're good in biology, since you're good in chemistry and biology, let's give chemistry to you to represent the school, because no one in chemistry did as good as you, but biology we have some other options. So I now had to study chemistry to now fully be able to represent the school in the Olympiads. So I went as far as the nationals at DK, but then through that whole process, I became interested in like chemistry. So I was like, what can you do with chemistry? So there was chemical engineering as well as an option. But then funny story, when I went to CBU to apply for chemical engineering, there was an incident that happened with the application, which I suspect may have caused that whole thing, but I wasn't accepted. So ideally, CBU back then, they give out the accepted list earlier than UNZA, the University of Zambia. So if CBU had accepted me, there's a very high chance I would have done chemical engineering, but then they didn't accept me at all. And then my grades were very good. So that's why I was like, something must have just been off about it. So then it became the natural sciences at the University of Zambia, which could either lead to computer science or medicine. But then when I was going there, it was for medicine. So we did that first year where you just make points. Second year, we now have to get quoted. So my aunt advised me to say, you've always been good at these things. She almost made it sound like, like you even have something you're naturally good at. Why aren't you pursuing it and going for it and trying something else? So that's, plus there was this guy doing computer science. So when I went in his room, he had like Linux, that terminal thing. So like, this stuff looks like I need to do this. This is something I need to do. So that combined, when I was quartering, I put computer science as my first option. Then when we got back, we eventually found out that I was quoted in computer science, and that's how that whole thing went. But then when I was going in there, unfortunately, I was going with the expectations that this is going to be very practical, hands-on stuff. And then unfortunately, I found we have slides, PowerPoints, historical books about Charles Babbage, where so I was like, when are we starting the actual stuff? So it took like 2 years. I was like,
what? 3 years?
This is a waste of time. No, we didn't even actually start the technical hands-on stuff. We were still just doing theoretical stuff. So I was like, this is like a waste of time and money. And I'm one of those people, I'm very practical. I don't like want to like get a computer science degree and yet it doesn't technically translate to anything. It's just a paper. So I was like, when are we learning the stuff that we need to use and apply in like real life? So I started questioning whether I'll finish this course. So I spoke to my mom, spoke to my classmates, like I feel like I need to just drop out of this thing. It's not making sense. And then in third year, I don't know if it's because of losing interest or because of I was doing like some musical, I was still an artist at this point. I was doing music. So one of my courses, the math one, I didn't clear it. So when I didn't clear it, there was a glitch in the system where they put us off bursary because of that one, which is not technically supposed to be the case. That happened with like 8 other friends of mine or so. So we started going to the bursaries office to like correct that error. It took us like process. 6 months, going, coming. And you know, when you go, they tell you tomorrow. That's how it turned to 6 months. And then, so we were now paying like cash at this point. So now that's made me like really think about it. Like, is this worth paying for like, what are we learning actually? And then my brother was now paying for my, because this is around the time when dad was retiring. So my brother was now paying for those extra costs. So it didn't feel like it was worth the money for me. So I was like, I think I'm going to just leave this whole thing. So I went into 4th year, and then this is the time when I knew Mapalo and I knew design, and then I knew you could actually do a job like as a designer. And then I was getting interested to a point where it's not just a hobby and I see myself actually doing it. Because it's like, you're enjoying it. Now imagine getting paid what you're enjoying. So I was like, this would really be cool. So when the time for doing the thesis that you have to present, I applied for a job at RNG and they called me for interviews. And then it was a situation I was like, if I go for this job, I can't do this school thing. So let me try and withdraw so that maybe if I have to come back, for whatever reason, let me withdraw officially. But then when I went to the department, I spoke to the HOD. He was like, come and see me at 14. Went back at 14. He couldn't even remember me. I was like, we just had a conversation. So it just seemed like a very inconveniencing thing, how like that whole thing was handled. So I went to I don't even remember the departments anymore. So I tried to like check the general, is it the, what do you call it? There's that thing like away from your department where all schools, students thing. So I tried to go and check from there, but then the queues were also very long, a lot of red tape. So it felt like it was wasting my time.
Just to withdraw.
Yeah, I couldn't even officially do it because of how the process was very slow and stuff. So I just walked out. Just walked out and that's how I left.
Wow. I think there's so many things that are common there because I think it was also the same situation.
Okay.
So I applied at CBU and ONZA. Of course, CBU came first. I was accepted at both, so I automatically went to CBU.
Okay.
Yeah, but even there, also like the part for the practical aspect of it, I hate theories, like especially if they're not translating into actual things that you can do. I also like get bored fast. So it was also the same situation where I remember one accounting class, financial accounting.
What were you studying?
Information systems.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember one accounting class, and then this guy asked the lecturer to say, so where do we apply this in real life? Then the lecturer was like, no, forget about real life. Just focus on this. And I was like, what? So in that situation where you're shocked and everybody else is just like, oh yeah, whatever. But I was just like shocked. Did you just hear what he said? Like, don't worry about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, then what are we doing this for?
I think that's one major problem, even with like how technology is moving. There's AI now, and even before AI, there was machine learning and other things. The workplace and the school system, there was such a big gap, and it's only getting bigger. I feel like we really need to do a lot as a country to like reduce that gap, because it's like you're learning for the sake of learning and it doesn't translate to anything. And then you go for work, you have to start learning again for what you're actually going to be doing.
When I looked at your bio, you call yourself brand therapist. What does that mean?
So brand therapist is like it's like an analogy of giving clarity to your clients, but then these clients are brands. So I'm like a therapist who people come to with, one, a specific problem they're experiencing. Two, they're in a certain place they don't want to be. Then three, there's a place they want to be where they're trying to get to. So I give them the clarity and provide them with the tools, so to speak, to get from point A to point B. So that's like a summary of what that means.
So it's not just about a brand coming to you and say, okay, we want a logo and that's it. You have to walk them through that process.
So everything is problem solution oriented. That, like, why do we need a logo? What's the problem we're trying to solve? There has to be something specific that you're trying to solve. Otherwise, just making a logo doesn't serve any purpose, to be honest. Unless you're like trying to establish a brand, you're trying to be recognizable and distinct from your competitors and stuff like that, then that's an actual problem. So there, a logo can help, having your own colors, fonts, and stuff like that. But it's not work I do just vaguely as from the deliverables point of view to say logos, profiles, company, whatever. It's more like what's the actual problem? Yeah, that's the approach, or that's the category I like to place myself in. Yeah.
Okay, so you always have the conversation upfront when, for example, because most clients would just approach it to say, okay, we want a logo, so we have to look for a designer, and then they find you and they just say, we are looking for a logo. Because some designers would just be like, oh, you're looking for a logo. Okay, what colors do you want? And okay, do you have any other thing that you would want to add? The colors, what is first, and then they start creating.
Okay, I get where you're coming from with that question. Though one distinction I would like to make is I do design work as a designer. But when I'm working as a brand therapist, that's like a different
story.
Yeah, that's a different role, so to speak. So from the design side, I do get clients that say we want a logo, and we do the usual stuff about what are your values, what does your company stand for, where do you see yourself, what's your target audience, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the brand therapist, which is usually the people that come for the brand therapy, or the companies are people and companies that are already existing, but they have a specific challenge. Like, for example, there's this one lady that came and said, my social media, I'm getting sales, but my engagement is low. So how do I like improve so that my engagement can be better? So that's the type of problem that people come for as me as the brand therapist. Yeah. So from there, we try to figure out what the problem is, and then what steps they need to make to get to their ideal position or place that they're trying to get to.
I think we need more of that. I asked that question because most designers, like, they only care about the aesthetic part of it, but not like the strategy or like what the company is trying to achieve, and know that the target audience. Like, it's rare that they do that. I think we need more education on that because well, most designers that you find haven't gone through like official education. So it's rare that they know the process of, onboarding a client, asking the right questions. So I think that's where I've seen the gap. Because even when I was starting out, all I knew is a logo. In the logo, what type of logo are you looking for? What's the name of your company? And you start the process without understanding all those other aspects to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a learning curve where I think most of anyone who's good at what they do, I think we all started from there. So we just thought of logos as icons or typography, and then as you grow, you realize like there's only so much design that you can do. There's that missing thing that shows up. Like, how do I improve? How do I add more value? Like, you could be technically good at Photoshop, like all the principles, you know them, but then your value to a client is going to be capped. Now, when you start solving problems, when you start adding value to the business, that's when your value crosses that point. And you can only do that if you realize to say, oh yeah, there's another side to this. Like, there's a reason why we're doing this. There's a reason why packaging is done, there's a reason why like logos exist in the first place. So when you understand the purpose, so I always like to look at life as value. What value are you adding and what value are you expecting? So yes, we made you a nice logo, but did your business improve? Did we get sales? And I think I've seen this problem a lot, even like with social media managers. Like, oh, we posted 10 posts, we put the captions. What does that translate to? I think we need to get to a point where we start looking at things in terms of what value does this add? Did we get results? What needs to be improved? Is the client happy? And things like that.
Yeah, now speaking of that, what sort of mindset do you think creatives in Zambia should have in order to thrive in this, in Zambia to be specific?
A lot of creatives, I think in Zambia currently, a lot of them are artists. Like they either come from that artistic background or they're doing it for the sake of art. So design in like by definition, if you look at it, it's not the art of like putting things together. It's more of communication. Like a design has to be communicating something. It's not just supposed to look nice. What is it actually saying? And a lot of people, even just that distinction, a lot of designers I've seen, they don't yet know that distinction between an artist and the graphic designer. We are communicators, and therefore we need to start looking at it like, what are we communicating, and what does that communication solve? First of all, why are we even communicating it? And what are we trying to solve in that communication? So I think the mindset is problem-solving oriented. We need to start looking at life as, what's the problem?
How do we solve it?
How is this the solution to that problem?
So it's not just about, okay, we just need a logo. But
it looks nice. Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah,
the motion graphics or the photo manipulation.
Yeah.
And you know the problem, or not even the problem, the limitation with that is where AI is going. A lot of what we pride ourselves in is going to be taken from us. So if you don't have that additional thing of what problem am I solving, AI is going to be taking that spot quite quickly. But if you are solving problems, no matter what the tools change into, problems and solutions will always be the equation of the game.
Yeah. I think that I've seen that as well, like since the rise of AI. We've seen that even things like photo manipulation now, you can easily generate something in Mid-Journey. I think there's this guy called Ben on YouTube. Ben who? Like he used to do a lot of manipulation. I don't know if you watch his YouTube.
Does it do like, was it movie posters or something?
Yeah, movie posters. Yeah, it does a lot of, it was very good at that.
Yeah.
And then when AI came, like, I think he made videos about it, how it just changed everything for him. And so, like, it significantly changed the way he worked and everything, because you can generate an image in 5 minutes, whereas it used to take like 2 hours just to create an image.
Yeah.
And so I think you remember he released a video where he was like really sad about that. AI could just easily do it. And now even with the recent release of ChatGPT at the recording of this video, like, it's able to do like a lot of graphic design work that we can do. So I think your point is very important to note that it's not, don't just be about the technicality, but how
the actual value and what problems we are solving.
I think again, like Zambia is just developing in terms of acknowledging creatives or creative arts. I think I remember when we were growing up, you can relate to say parents always used to encourage us to go the traditional route.
Even the artists themselves were like, go to school.
You see? So it was always that conversation. But when you look at maybe the Western countries, that they've gone ahead of that. Like there's a lot of universities that are offering that. You can go to film school without any criticism. You can do graphic design. What challenges do you think Zambians are facing? Creatives to be specific.
I think parents mean well. They want security. And for that security, they have to kind of gamble. If they have to gamble, they have to gamble on something that's more guaranteed. And you can only base your judgment on what you've seen before. And a lot of them, the jobs they know are the ones like the what do you call them? The legacy jobs like teacher, accountant, doctor, lawyer. But I think the the creator economy is creating jobs that didn't exist before. It's just unfortunate that some people are still unaware of them. Funny story, there are actually influencers right now making more than doctors. Not even like a joke. But then it's not guaranteed for everyone. That's the only distinction. A doctor, when you do your studies, you focus, you will graduate and become a doctor. But as an influencer, like, what's the route? How do you guarantee that it does lead to something? So I think that's the only difference. Parents, they would want to put their children in situations that are kind of guaranteed. But I think as an individual especially, I think we need more free thinkers as well. We need more individuals that are willing to take risks, because parents can only take us so far. And if you look at people that do change the world, people that even make certain things possible, like these computers, the founders, if we go back to these lights, we find that maybe the founders were also people that went against the norms and took a risk. So I think taking risks, and I don't mean like in a betting, like gambling type of sense, I feel we need more free thinkers. There's a lot of normality or going in the same direction type of mindset. I think we need to break away from that as Zambians, because there's a very high ratio of, like, even right now, a lot of people are trying to either be teachers, nurses, or doctors, waiting for that list in the newspaper, going to the army, waiting for that list. There's very few people that think and say, you know what? Yes, there will be people that are needed for that, but there's also all these empty slots that no one has filled yet. I think that's the shift that we really need. Individuals on an individual level, not like institutional, like not the government needs to do. I don't feel like that's where the solution is going to come from. It's going to come from individuals becoming individuals.
Yeah. I also see that a lot especially when deciding to go to uni. It's always the conversation of, okay, what is the best program that you can take that will guarantee you a job? And mostly you find that, okay, nursing or the army. So I think we need that a lot. As a creative, is it possible to make real money as a creative? What's the honest truth in Zambia?
Can we have like a definition of what real money? Because what you're making, I can call that real money. I mean, not that I know the figures, but I would say you're doing well to be able to be doing what you're doing. For me, I would call that real money, but for some people it might be different. So I think there's an understanding of what does real money mean. You can make a living. You can make a living enough to at least take care of a family. It can take you to the middle class. Yeah, it can definitely take you to the middle class. I don't think it's able to take you to upper class.
The upper class, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to take you to the upper class currently. You have to do businesses or something else outside creative ventures. But it can definitely make you thrive in the middle class.
Is it that in Zambia or everywhere?
No, not everywhere. I think because the creative industry is not a standalone industry. We don't control the two sides of the equation. So there's the client and the overall market, and then there's the, what do you call them? The technical people who are like developing the designers, which could be schools, YouTube, whatever the people are coming from. So when the people come into the space, we're obviously coming from different backgrounds. So there's no standardization there, first of all. Then as well as the kind of clients we're working with, if Zanaco, okay, sorry to mention names, but if Zanaco, FNB, or whichever bank feels that this agency can only be paid 50 PIN to service our account, that's an example. But the agency does not have the power to say, no, we won't accept your 50K. We can only do business at 250. They'll be dropped. The bank will go to a different agency and stuff like that. So where you're not in control of where the end product goes, there's always going to be the restriction of the industry you're interfacing with will determine certain things about how much you're making. So that 50K, like I gave an example, if that's what the agency is getting, that's what determines what the designers, the account managers, and the copywriters are also getting. So if we get to a point where banks value agency work, or what we do, to a point where they are valuing it at maybe millions per month for retainers, that translates into how much designers get. But like, because we don't control those things, we're in the middle. So That's because when like, if you look at, someone goes to China to study graphic design. If they come to Zambia, you can't say because I went to China or the USA, I'm going to be getting paid this much. No, what will determine that is what the agency gets, how much your skill is valuable to the end user, which is the client, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but if you start a business, let's say you're selling t-shirts, you're controlling where the end product is going. You can decide your price. So these t-shirts, for example, if they are $250, they're $250.
Yeah.
If you can't get them at $250, you won't get them anywhere else. So that's the problem with the industry we're in. We don't determine the end, where the end product goes and how much value it's given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think would be the solution?
To have upper class graphic designers. You mean like the industry?
Creatives, the industry in general, because I think it's also about value. Because I don't think most people understand maybe the value that creatives bring to the table. I think that's also another issue.
So you mean clients that we service appreciating what we do, getting to that point?
Yeah, because sometimes, like you said, they only suggest to say, okay, you can only give you a 50 pin per month.
Yeah.
That's what we value at.
I think it goes back to the problem I told you where we don't look at things in terms of value and problems and solutions. It's usually deliverables. If a client comes to you, right, they say we want a logo, we want a campaign, and you're able to guarantee them to say, when we give you this logo, when we do this campaign, your sales will go up from X to 2X. And it happens. They come back and you're like, no, this one will charge you 2 times what we charged you last time because your business has grown. You think they'll say no? They won't say no because they know the impact of what you did for them. But if there's no measurement, first of all, of the impact of what we're doing, and you're just saying, no, we gave you a logo, we delivered 50 artworks, we did one campaign, what did that actually solve? What value did that add to the client? So if the client gets to a point where they see the impact of what you're doing, then you can discuss pricing and increasing pricing.
Yeah.
But if it's just no deliverables, you can give me deliverables. The next designer can give me deliverables. Anyone can give them deliverables. There's no objective way to measure creativity.
Yeah, that's
why you see clients move from one agency to another. The logo looks whack, the designs become worse, but to them, it doesn't change anything. It's business as usual. If they're making 50K, they're still making 50K. Until they get to a point where if they change an agency, their sales drop, and then they're like, okay, maybe we need to go back. Then those conversations can become possible.
Yeah, so it's hard to measure.
Yeah, you can't measure creativity.
It's really difficult. Yeah. All right, Abel. So this is called Duwit. Here we don't just talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to go into the practical stuff now. Are you ready?
Let me just have a... What are we doing?
All right, for the project breakdown, since you also do like brand consulting. Yeah. I'm sure most designers don't do that. So I think that's one thing that's really important. I think even when I was starting out, I only knew the technical part of it, but you need also to at least have knowledge in brand consulting or consulting with the clients that you're working with. So we're going to you're going to walk us through like what are some of those things designers can learn when it comes to brand consulting, especially those that want to go into that direction.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm going to ask you some questions that you're going to help us with. So the first question is, what does your brand consulting process typically look like from first meeting to final delivery?
Okay, so first meeting is the introductory meeting where they approach me to say, we need your services. This is what we do. Our name is so and so. We are in this location. And the basic stuff, I guess, about in terms of identity and industry and what kind of target audience vaguely they're into. From there, you probably would have to set up an actual meeting. So the meeting may be the same. Okay, it's rarely the same day. Maybe the same week, but it has to be a mutual time that both of you will be available. Yeah. So in that meeting. Normally what I do now, I have a questionnaire. So I've written down certain questions that give me better context. So I usually send that for them to answer before that meeting. So when we start the meeting, I'm not like I'm sort of a step ahead, so I know what to focus on, so to speak. So the questions I give them will highlight areas for me where I will pick out problems to say this is off, this is okay, this is on point. And then when they do come for that meeting, which we do as a more of an interview, conversation interview. So let's say they mentioned something in the questionnaire as a response to a question that I felt was vague or needed like more context. I'll bring it up to say, when you said this, what do you mean? Like when you said your target audience is Zambians, but your target in terms of pricing is this much. If there's a misalignment, I'll bring up to say, but Zambians can't afford that. So your targets are not aligned and stuff like that. So we rectify any glitches. Sometimes it takes longer if the client is like stubborn. There are clients that are like, no, this will work. So I have to remind them to say, look, you came to me as a consultant because I know something or have the experience that you may not have. So you have to sort of respect my opinion to some extent. Otherwise, this is pointless. So I have to clarify that part. It's something you may struggle with, I think, in the beginning, but as you gain confidence and a reputation, it kind of reduces. So people will doubt you in the beginning, but you have to keep building that confidence. So when you go through the questions, you align on the direction. You now need to make almost like another document about the next steps that they need to make. So that document is sent after the meeting when I compile to say, okay, this is what needs to be done next, almost like a roadmap of like the next steps. And then when the next steps are done, I send that as an email to the client. So those next steps now, there may be things in there that may require me to do. Like let's say we need to do a social media campaign. That's a separate thing. So they have to come back if they want to do it with me, or maybe I can recommend someone else that can do that particular thing. So that roadmap will guide them as to where they need to go, but them doing it in terms of the actual execution may be with me or someone else. So that's like a typical journey.
Okay. Yeah, I know you've mentioned the process of maybe if you can just go, like, how do you diagnose the problem, like a therapist would?
I think it comes with experience. There are certain, I don't know if it's second nature at this point. There are just certain things you just like know because of your experience. Like let's say someone says we want a logo that uses a picture of my baby, then we want it like on a website. You automatically pick that up as a designer and say that's the problem. A logo should be able to be vectorized for like multiple applications on apps, t-shirts, websites, blah, 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 blah. It needs to be scalable so that if it's small, it's visible. So even before they continue, that's kind of like you pick those issues up. And like I said, it's something that kind of comes with experience. But like your diagnosis is easier if you have a documented process. So it helps you know to say at this stage, this is the problem I'm looking for. Is it there or not?
Okay.
Yeah, because if you're just having conversations, there are parts that you might overlook. Then you remember like, oh snap, I didn't ask about the budget. What's the budget? So if you have a documented process, it kind of helps you to know, is this client, first of all, putting enough money into this? You ask them and you diagnose, okay, no, there's a misalignment there. They're not willing to spend the money that is needed for this. So you are able to pick out those problems. But I think a lot of the problems from experience and from knowing the standards, like even with design, we know like contrast is a standard, it's a principle. So when you know the principles, when they are broken, you're able to pick that up as well.
It's really important for designers to have that knowledge, that entire process. So sometimes clients will come with a lot of authority, because they're the one that have the money. How do you get them to a point where they listen to you? For example, if they're trying to do something in the wrong way, you just be like, anyway, I'll just do whatever you want as long as you give me the money. There's also that mindset. Since you're stubborn, I'll just do whatever that you want. How do you ensure that you tell the client to say, okay, you came to me because I am the expert, and so you at some point you have to listen to what I say and what I recommend. So that's one thing that's hard to do because you think that you might come out maybe to be disrespectful or you are stubborn or something like that.
So to be honest, there's no There's no one answer to that question because even with all the answers, there are just certain clients who are just stubborn. Like no matter what approach you take, they will just be like, no, I want it this way. My logo has to be green, even though the background is also green. I want a green this or that. So, like I said, with reputation, I mean a track record of having worked with certain people and them getting the success that these people that are coming are looking for. So you can reference to say, with this person, we did this and that's what worked. So if you're trying to go this route, that's your thing, but for this is what worked. When you give them that kind of context, it kind of helps them. We're like, okay, so if this doesn't work, it's on me. And most of them fear that responsibility of like, this didn't work because I didn't listen.
Yeah.
And it worked for this one because maybe they listened. So that's like the most common solution to that. But if you don't have a track record yet of people you've worked with where something worked, sometimes we may have to do that, not for the money per se, but you give them the disclaimer to say, this is what I recommend, but we'll go with your route. Then if it doesn't work, then you have proof to say this didn't work. But if it works, you also learn, you'll be like, oh, so that can actually, because sometimes even as consultants or designers, we have mindsets that may be incorrect and the experience will align us like, oh, so that's not the only way to do it. And then you can track that to say, maybe next time someone comes, you'll be like, okay, this person said this, and I told them it won't work, and they did it anyway. And see, as you've seen, because when you work with a client, these things take place on the ground where someone can see. So you can reference to say, that client, we told them this, they didn't listen, you've seen what they did, it didn't work out. So you also have to listen and kind of, that's how you build your track.
Yeah. Okay, so you make sure you build your track record very well and have references.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is, if you decide to go their route, even if it's wrong, you have to make sure that you give them a disclaimer and not just say, okay, we'll go your route without giving a disclaimer.
Yeah, I have to make them know that when this doesn't happen, we had this point in the conversation where you accepted that you want to go forward.
Okay, that is loud and clear. Yeah, I think when I was starting out as well, that was also like the fear, like you just go their route and for the sake of peace.
Yeah.
Say. Yeah, but that's really important, making sure that you give them a disclaimer to say, okay, we're going to go your route, but remember I told you this and that.
Yeah, that's very important.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And now I would just like to your thoughts on Z Mobile and the way it was launched. I asked this question because I know I saw some of your posts during the launch and after the launch.
You know, Z Mobile, unfortunately, it's, you know, where they say top of mind? Top of mind is where, like, when people think about you or about the product that you're involved in, you're the first to come up. Z Mobile is so bottom of mind that I have to constantly remind myself that they exist. No, like seriously, like I frequently forget. I saw some, I don't know if it was an award or something, but they were talking about mobile companies, and I was like, oh wait, there's also Z Mobile, but that conversation actually didn't include them in the particular thing they were talking about. So it's that kind of situation where I keep forgetting that they exist. The way they rolled out their intro into the market was well done.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was flawless. I was like, this is probably the best thing I've seen in a while. I think maybe the last thing was, maybe not even as good, but the last thing close was that Zanaco thing with the, what was it called? Was it here for, no. The one where they put billboards and we didn't know who it was. Do you remember that time? What was the name of that? Was it the Tikula period where they did that campaign? Yeah, they did. Yeah, there were billboards and everyone was speculating like, who is this? Is it a bank? Is it what? And then they eventually rolled it out. So the problem with Z Mobile is the link between the teasers and the actual launch was not well done. There was a very big disconnect to the point where if you didn't, well, some people saw the billboards, but they didn't know it was actually Z Mobile that was behind. Yeah, so some people saw the billboards, were excited by them. Some people saw the launch of Z Mobile and they didn't know it was the same, same company. Yeah. So there was that disconnect where it didn't lead up properly into the launch. Yeah, okay. So normally when you put a billboard to say something is coming. The update should be on the same platform. When that thing comes, you should update that to show that, it's come now. If you use the certain influencer to tease, when the launch happens, you should use the same influencer. When you use Mwebantu and whatever, those are the platforms you need to go back again. But it's like you do teasers in different platforms. The billboards were still in the same state, I think, for like a week or so.
Even after
the launch, they were still saying the same communication. And then not all of them were updated with the launch information. And then when they did launch, a lot of things were missing. Apps were not working, websites were down, service was not available, and there was bad communication. Like, even if you were giving them the grace, there was no way of actually knowing at what stage they were at, what they were trying to do next, and what they eventually will. Like, even right now, I don't actually know like how their rollout is going to be. I just know they were in Lusaka at some point in some areas. Maybe they're in all the areas. I don't even know if they're in all the areas yet. But I think it was a letdown. They started out very well and then they just
messed it up.
Yeah, messed it up.
Yeah, it was actually good. It wasn't the thing, because they had that billboard which was saying the movement, and it was all over social media and everyone was talking about it. And then when it launched, people were asking, okay, where are the SIM cards? Where do we get the SIM cards? Like, that information wasn't there. There was just a lot of,
and the whole thing of calling the page the movement as the name, it's just a brand no. It's a no. Like, you can't call a campaign name as your page name. And then your name is taking like a sub. What do you call it? Like what do you call them? A nickname, the nickname section. Yeah, which, like, who wants to remember a company as the movement? You want to remember Z Mobile, then the movement second. But they flipped their priorities there.
Yeah, anyway, there's a lot of things we can...
there's a lot of things wrong. Like, even the thing of buying from Airtel, how do you use your competitor as the way people are talking? Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's a masterclass in how to not do things.
I think it's a situation where you overpromise and then you underdeliver. I think that was the overpromise and then underdeliver. Because the campaign was like loud, the teaser was like really loud, like we're expecting something very big. And then, of course, when the product launched, there was like all those things that were wrong.
Yeah, it's like they either launched too early before they were ready, or they bit more than they could chew. But like, either way.
What's your biggest advice for creatives who want to shift from just being designers to brand thinkers?
So the advice is for those that already want to make that shift. Okay. Essentially, the reason you feel that way, inside of you, there's already a desire. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that thought to want to transition. And I feel it's because of inwardly, there's a missing piece that you feel can be filled by that transition. So the fact that you're already that kind of person, I think is a good sign. So the next thing you now need to develop, there's a saying in the Bible, zeal without knowledge. That desire is like zeal. So the next thing you need to get is knowledge. So one, look at people that have gone that direction, learn from them. If you could get someone to be your mentor, that's the best approach. It's not guaranteed, because usually people in higher spaces from where we are more busy than we are. So if you're lucky, get a mentor. If you can't get one, at least look at how these people move, learn from them from afar, try to get as many books on the topics, get tutorials on the topics. And then it's a learning curve. You won't start immediately and be perfect. It will take some time, but it's a journey like anything else. And you have to give yourself the patience and grace to make the mistakes. Don't be afraid of the mistakes. They are, I think, the best way of learning certain things. Yeah. So that's my advice.
All right. So that was it for the project breakdown on the process of brand consulting. And now back to our conversation. All right. So, like, what are you currently observing in the creative space in Zambia?
Fear. There's a lot of fear in the creative space because of AI. A lot of people don't know if the career they have, they'll still have it in 5 years. They don't know if they should pivot and do something else or stay in the creative space. I think that's the most, like currently, that's the most obvious thing that I'm seeing. But I'm also seeing a lot of potential. I've seen a lot of designers making a living from what we do. I've seen more ambitious young people. Back in our day, like it's that far back. So when I was starting out, there was only like possibly 5 guys that I could look up to say, oh, this guys. But now it's like a whole, I don't even know everyone anymore.
Like,
yeah, that's the stage.
So
There's so many people making a living, and it's good that there's enough for everyone because everyone is thriving in their own space. I just feel like there's still that problem with the, I don't know if we can call them bottom tier, because we used to call them the 50 Kwacha logo guys. Somehow we still have that problem. I feel like people need to be sensitized more, so we have like some minimums in terms of standards for certain things. But generally, there's a lot of growth. If we get through this fear, there's a lot of opportunity on the other side. Yeah,
because fear will stop you from doing it, will cripple you in some way that will prevent you from moving forward or thinking ahead.
And you don't see certain opportunities if you're operating from fear. Because funny story, some millionaires became millionaires during like the Great Depression. But this was a time where everyone was in despair, like it's over and I don't know what's next. But some people can thrive in difficult situations. And I think it's a mindset which we all can learn from, because fear is natural. Like we all feel fear. It's now moving past that fear that kind of separates one person from the other.
Yeah. Okay, Abel, it is now time for the rapid fire questions. So short answers only. Are you ready?
So when you say short answers, is this like yes, no, or can it be a sentence?
A sentence is enough. Yes or no, or one word or a sentence.
Okay.
Not a paragraph.
Let's go.
Favorite brand of all time, whether Zambia or international?
Apple.
One artist you would love to work with but haven't yet?
That's a tricky one. What's coming to mind is Mampi for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. What's one brand you think is currently misunderstood?
I would say a brand that's currently misunderstood is Zesco. Yeah.
I don't need an explanation to that.
Well,
okay, this time I'll break the rules.
Okay, so Zesco as a brand is misunderstood because they're a parastatal company, first of all. Now, for a company to be functional, they need to like make profit, and then their expenses have to be lower than the revenue they're gaining. So the challenge with Zesco is they have to increase the costs that they charge us for the power that we make, for them to be able to make profit, to be able to expand and do other things. But the thing is, the moment they try to increase, so it's like they're in a situation where solving the situation is another problem. So they'll have to start by creating a bigger problem before the solution. So that's why I would say Zesco.
Yeah. Okay. Coffee, tea, or energy drinks?
So it's going to be tea.
Tea?
Yeah.
Tea. No coffee, no energy. Okay.
Energy drinks, not healthy. Coffee, the caffeine has problems for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the addiction is also another problem. I feel tea is like a stable middle.
One word to describe your creative process?
Analytical.
All right. Okay, those are the rapid fire questions.
I thought they were like 10 or 15.
No, you wanted more.
Yeah, I was expecting more.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, about projects that you're currently working on, or you rather not talk about them?
So projects in which, because like there are many spaces.
Yeah, whatever I get. What you're working on, that comes to mind.
The most ambitious thing I'm trying to do is called anti-quiet. So anti-quiet is like, it's from the phrase, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is that good men stay quiet. So there are certain issues I've seen that you know, where you think about like, let me say something, and you're like, then people, and then you're like, nah, it's not worth it. There are always those posts I always thought I could make, but I didn't because of how people would react. But I got to a stage where that statement touched me in a way where I was like, yeah, I'm slacking. And you only live once, so you might as well do it the right way, or from at least the way you see it as the right way. So I'm now trying to become more vocal about the things I care about. So this kind of is a challenge in that if you're looking at branding, it kind of goes against some of the values. Like as a brand, you have to be consistent, you have to be like blah, blah, blah. But if you care about things, one day you'll be talking about Zambezi River, the other day you'll be talking about politics. So that's why I was struggling to like do that transition effectively. But I feel like I'm just going to do it without like trying to like keep the rules of branding and whatnot. So that's one project I'm currently working on. It was supposed to go a different direction, but I'm just trying to get it off the ground at this point.
Where can people follow you or connect with you online?
On social media, my name is Abel Black, ZM, on everything.
Showing right here.
I'm sure it will show up.
Yeah, I'm sure it yeah. Abel, thank you so much for coming through. This was a really good conversation. I feel like we haven't talked about a lot of things.
Yeah,
very short.
I feel like it would have been longer than I was expecting. Yeah. Maybe I had fun. That's why it feels like.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Always is. Yeah. But of course, there's future episodes coming up. So who knows? We might continue this conversation. But thank you so much for coming and taking your time to come through.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's an honor. And is there something people say that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it.
All right.
All right, good.